2 out of 3 isn't bad.
Okay, everybody. So I talked last week about Paul LaGreca, who is here with us right now, and about his new book, The Boy Behind the China Cabinet. And so many of you were so interested in this book. And so, first of all, I want to welcome Paul LaGreca to the Cat and Todd Live.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Kat. You're the best.
Thank you. Well, I want you to know that this book, and we'll put it, on the bottom here so people can see the name of the book throughout. But it was so interesting to me because, first of all, I'm a Christian. Love that you wrote and are so connected in your faith to the point where you actually quit your acting career at the age of, was it 25?
24.
24. 24 years old. You quit your acting career right when it was about to really blast off, and you were doing really well. I mean, you came there from New York, and that boy from the Bronx, and came to Los Angeles, and bam, 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 bam. Just name a few of the things, if you would, that you acted on, and
sure.
Let
Before I came to Hollywood, I did off-Broadway Barnum's Last Life with Harris Yulin and Brent Collins, who was starring in one of the soap operas. I think All My Children.
Dark Shadows, was it? Or
yeah, something like Another World.
Oh, Another World, my first show. Okay.
Yeah. Was it? And then after that, I went to LA. I got met a casting director who right away put me in a show called Erotic Images, right? That's in the book.
Oh, that's a funny story. Yes, we'll talk about that during the interview.
And then after that, I got the guest role on Knight Rider. I recurred on the TV series The Whiz Kids. I did the pilot of Airwolf. I did Fame, the TV series. I did a movie, a couple of pictures for Columbia, one with Alan Arkin and Peter Falk called Big Trouble. So my career was like, it took off. I was doing very well.
Right. And what I love about this story is that, it's funny when people make decisions and take turns and make choices, and every choice has a consequence, and whether the consequence is something you enjoy or not.
Yep.
And you decided to leave when your career was just about to take off, and tell them what you decided to do. Sure.
So I was really making a splash at Universal, and all the casting directors were requesting me, which you want to happen, and something wasn't right. And I went to a party for UNICEF at 20th Century Fox with April Lehrman, who was on the TV series Charles in Charge at the time, and we sat there at the UNICEF thing, and they shut off all the lights. You watch a movie. Afterwards, you have a champagne, you kibitz, you write a check, and you go home.
Yes.
Well, as I'm watching this video, something in me woke up, and I call it was like an epiphany. It was as if a light came off the screen and touched my heart. And I saw children with distended stomachs, children with orange hair, all signs of malnutrition, picking up crumbs off the street. And I realized that the life that I'd been living, I was moving in a very self-indulgent direction. And it wasn't enough for me just to write a check. Something said, you need to do more. And so when it ended, I was actually tearful, and April was making fun of me. And I'm going to send you this when it's done. And then I went to Valerie Harper, who was running it. And she said, look, you just got to town. What are you talking about? You want to be a missionary? She goes, you don't do anything crazy. Stay still. Get your career going. Learn your craft. At any rate, I decided to go home after many months because the joy of giving and volunteering replaced the joy of wanting to be in front of the camera. It was a very odd thing. I write about it in the book. And then I went home. And when I went home, I met Mother Teresa in the South Bronx. Yeah.
Wow. And then?
And then, well, I met her sisters first. My father would go every week and drop off meat. Daddy was a butcher, and we would drop off bags of donated food that he would give to the poor. And it was a soup kitchen and a men's shelter. And he took me with him, and one of the sisters said, "Oh, you're Jack's son. So good to meet you." And she was very sweet. And she said, "I think you should come and you should help us now that you're back from Los Angeles. You're an actor." I said, "Yeah." I go, "I'll be pursuing my career from New York." And she said, "We need help in summer camp. Do you know how to act and do things with children?" And like I went into a panic. I'm like, "Oh my God, what would I do?" So I said, "Sure, if you need me." And I volunteered and I did summer camp. I had 100 kids in the South Bronx singing Hooray for God in
Mm.
the streets of the Bronx. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever experienced. At any rate, one of the priests there invited me to Washington, D.C. to come see their life. And it happened. And when I walked in the door, it was an AIDS shelter for 100 men. And Mother just opened it. And when I walked in, there she was. She was in town.
Oh, I don't know
And
what
she
I
took
would
me,
do. I mean, how did you feel at that moment when you're
you
looking
just,
at Mother Teresa?
you just smile. And she's, first, she looks like anybody's grandma. Like you just want to hug her and hold her, but you want to be with her.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about her persona or her aura that you don't want to leave Mother. And she came up to me and Father said, "This is, she came around and introduced herself to the new guys. And she said, 'What is your name, brother?' And I said, 'My name is Paul, and I'm here to see the life.' And she said, 'Very good.' She goes, 'Oh, we need a St. Paul.' So
Oh,
I
so
was laughing. She goes,
she had a sense of humor.
'Oh, totally.' Oh, yeah. That night at dinner, she noticed me staring at the brownies on the table, and she was serving us, believe it or not. And
Oh,
she goes, 'Oh, I see. Brother Paul is looking at the big brownie. Give him that one.' And I'm like, 'Oh my God.'
oh
And
my.
here we are trying to be humble and demure, and she noticed me. It was great. But yes, she said, 'You come and you see our life.' And so I did. Yeah, I
And you
entered.
and I saw in the book there's a picture of you holding a child, one of these children with the distended stomachs, and
Yes.
I mean, you manifested that moment
Yeah.
when you were
Yeah.
watching Unicef in Los Angeles
Yeah,
because
I
you had
did.
such an emotional reaction to that. And
I
there you
did.
are a year later or so holding
Yes.
this child.
That child was dying of AIDS. It was a house in Haiti there were about 45 beds of children dying of AIDS. Yeah,
Mm. So
yeah, that
this
was
was in the
crazy.
80s, which why I love this book so much because I was in Hollywood. I started my career in the about 76, 77.
Yeah,
And then by the early 80s, I was on a soap opera in Los Angeles. First I started out in New York City with soaps. I was on
yep.
Texas, then Another World, then I came
Texas.
west. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
It was the
Did you were you on
daytime, huh?
were you on Another World with Alice Barrett at the same
Yes.
time as her?
Hmm.
Okay, Alice is a good friend of mine. Yeah,
Yeah. But I don't know that she would remember me because they were introducing our characters to move on to a new show called Texas. So it was a
got it.
spin-off of Another World. So I didn't have too much to do with the Another World actors because they had us working with each other to spin off this new show.
Yeah,
Anyway, when I moved after that to Los Angeles, it was 1981. And so everything you wrote about in the Los Angeles and becoming an actor and being in Hollywood, which is fantastic part of the book, what really struck me was I knew everybody you were talking about.
I'm sure. It
Now,
was smaller, right? We all knew each other. It was
we,
just different.
yes, it was different. Anyone starting out, it's like you found each other and then
Yep.
things would bloom for everybody at the same time or just a little bit before or after. But here's the thing that made me go, oh my gosh. First of all, you and I are supposed to know each other because when you did Knight Rider, you were
Hmm.
you actually were 21,
I was 20. I just turned 21.
just
Yep.
turned 21, but you looked and played 15 or something.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Am I right? And
16th. Yeah. Uh-huh.
so I saw you on the set because I came to visit the
You
set.
did.
And you just looked like a kid. I would have never ever thought you were 21 years old. Now, we didn't really have any interaction that I recall.
Well, I just remember, I think you were with another actress. I think Jack Gill's wife.
Yeah,
I'm gonna Morgan
Yeah,
Brittany.
yes, Morgan Brittany, right?
And I thought you were both so beautiful. I was dumbstruck. I really was. I'm like, but you were both, it wasn't physical to either. It was you both from the inside shone.
Thank you.
And I
Well,
just thought I said, I could be friends with these people. They're so beautiful. Yeah.
but it took us how many years to
I
come?
know it happens when God wants it to happen.
So 30 something years later, 35.
Here we are, Kat.
Well, no, what happened was we met each other. We were both at the same Night Rider convention that Mark Poet puts on. It's called Southern
Yep.
Knights of Atlanta, which is a great event, and
Mm-hmm.
it's very intimate. And I go every year, but you came this one year, maybe 3 years ago?
3 years ago, I was asked to come like as the guest because my episode was going to be like the featured episode or something to that
Yes.
effect, right?
And so that's where we met each other, and we just went zzz,
Yeah,
instant connection.
instant.
Okay. So now I love the story about you writing this book because it was just a thought in your head. You had started making notes and things about this. We talked about it in the back of a car on the way to something in Atlanta. And then when I read the book, just got a chance to finally read it. When I read it, and you said you worked at an answering service as an answering service operator, you're not going to believe this.
Were you Hollywood too? Were you actor phone? Oh no.
Well, it was called Sunset Dial, and it was when I first got to Hollywood. That was that was my day job in the 70s that I answered.
Oh my God, how funny.
No, do you understand? Do you start to see how God puts people
together? That is crazy. So you were at an answering service too?
For a long, it was the only, I couldn't see myself waiting on tables because I'm terrible at it. Yeah. And I didn't know what to do for a day job, but I really love people like you do. And so, I went to work for the answering service before answering machines. It was before everything. And I was talking to famous people every day, and giving them their message. And I just thought it was fun, but it did get heavy, and for exactly the same reasons you talk about in the book, because you're taking everybody else's good news. And also you were all sitting in this room with a big wheel in the middle.
Oh God.
Do you remember?
Hollywood 2, one moment, please. Hollywood 2, one moment, please. Checking. You have 2 messages. Remember? Oh
God. And I got to tell Sharon Gless when she got the part on Cagney and Lacey.
Oh my God, you're kidding.
I am not. It was like
that is crazy.
75 or so. I don't remember, but it was something like that. And when I saw that chapter in your book about you working at the answering service as an answering service operator, I thought, I don't know anybody, but there's 4 or so of you at the same time, and it can be really great, but you can it becomes like a dysfunctional family when you're
so dysfunctional. It's scary.
So another thing, another job you had as when you were beginning your acting career was in was it Dino De Laurentiis's?
Oh yeah, the DDL food show.
Yeah. So
were you there? Did you come?
Oh yeah, I know I have seen you there because I was there all the time. But what really struck me about that was that's where you got your first lightning bolt, where you they threw away so much food every night, and you wanted to take it downtown and feed the poor. Yep. And you lost your job because you actually took something out of the garbage and you made sure you gave them 50%, because they were just going to throw it away. So you paid 50% of what it was worth, and they let you go. And the woman was really sad to do it, but that was your first lightning bolt, I think, in LA. It was where you were thinking already, I need to do more, and you wanted to take this beautiful food they were throwing away, not home to eat it, but to give it to somebody. And that struck me really, really well. So Night Rider 36 years before was our, first time that we touched each other, we connected. And then we connect 36 years later at a Night Rider obscure, small, beautiful event in Atlanta. We became fast friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
You wrote your book. And then we both worked at an answering service as answering service operators for our first jobs to support ourselves in Hollywood. And it just goes on and on from here. How many how our lives have done
It's
that.
a parallel.
It
Yeah.
is a parallel. And I really related to what you said when you were talking about, because you were always, you were raised in Catholic schools, and you were raised in the Bronx in a Catholic
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
You had a really chaotic childhood, even though you
Yeah.
had very loving, fantastic mother and father that stayed together.
Mm.
Your brother Charlie was suffering drug addiction to a really big degree.
Yeah.
And how we talked about that in Atlanta, about how painful that is.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
when you have
Yeah.
a family member that is, you're not pulling them up, but they are pulling everybody down, and how
Right.
you feel guilty for the thoughts you have.
Yep.
And so when I was reading about that in the book, I was thinking how many people would relate to this, because uh, it's like the big secret when a
It
family has
is.
somebody like
Right.
that.
An addict's problem is not just theirs. It becomes yours too.
Oh yeah.
Until you learn how to not make it yours. And that is a process, and
Mm.
it's painful, and it's not easy to do. It
No.
takes a lot of work,
Yes.
know.
And so Charlie died when he was, what,
He
about
was 20,
28? Was it
he was
28 or?
28,
Yeah.
28. Yeah.
And so it's so crazy that you can actually have dual emotions at the same time, because
Yeah.
when someone is so sick and it is so clear that it's been going on for so long, and it's nothing is, you can't do anything, you've done everything and nothing is taking, so you
Mm-hmm.
feel these strange emotions at a grieving time that really are confusing. And one is grief and the other one is relief. So you have the
Mm-hmm.
two opposite emotions working,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
and you feel so awful about this.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's really something that's worth touching, because I know so many people out there have
Yes.
family
Look.
members like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody that is dealing with an addict of any kind, whether it is alcohol, drugs, sexual addictions, whatever the case might be, you know, if you are living in an environment with that in close proximity to you, you get affected by it,
Mm-hmm.
and you begin to take on. We all take different roles. So I write about in the book how I became the savior. I took care of my mother when she cried. I went with my father in the car to find my brother. I had other family members that kind of hid under the rug.
Right.
Everybody takes a role, but there's groups like Al-Anon, Adult Children of Alcoholics. There's groups that came in at the right time. I talk about them in the book, and were there to scoop me up.
Yeah.
And I learned the tools. How do you, even though Charlie's dead, what is this behavior of mine? Like, what is this constant guilt? What is this control? And you learn how to become more self-aware and how to work through things. So it's
Right.
important. It's important to share and to process. There's help.
Well, you started also in the book. It's clear that you did start being a caretaker at an extremely young age,
Yep.
because there are 10 kids in your family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
There were 10 of
so
us.
I think that control is not unusual, like wanting to be in control as an
Yeah.
adult, because first of all, 10 kids, and so everybody needs a turn, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And some
Yep.
kids need, when someone is an addict, or there's someone in the family that has real issues, there's so much attention that has to go there. And when there's 9 other kids in a family, that's really rough. And so
Yeah.
you grow up wanting to be in control of
Yep.
at least your real estate, your
That's
environment.
right.
And
The China cabinet.
so let's talk about the title, because I love the title,
Yeah.
the boy behind the China cabinet. And I was really
Right.
touched, because the China cabinet, and I'll let you tell that, was your refuge. It was where you could hide with your special things. And then
Yeah.
when you moved out of the Bronx into New Jersey, your China cabinet was in the kitchen, so that was
Forget
gone.
about it. Right.
And you had to find a new place to be safe.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
to be in
That's
paulsworld.com.
right. That's
So
right.
so
Yeah. So
tell
my
me.
so my brothers, I had 5 older brothers. I was the youngest of 6 boys, as you know. And so when you grow up in the Bronx, you have to be tough. You got to learn how to survive the streets, right? So my brothers were concerned that I couldn't box. They would be like, "Hey, come on!" As soon as they saw me, they would wrestle me to the ground. I'm a creative, so I wanted my crayons, I wanted my colors, I wanted things with color fascinated me. So it was a little different than my brothers. So I had to learn where to put my things so that my brothers couldn't destroy my things, and they would be safe because they would break my crayons.
Yeah.
So behind the china cabinet, because it was caddy corner in the upstairs show kitchen, my I had like my phonograph, my records, my art, and there was enough room for me to stand if I wanted to. And so that was my little refuge. But the china cabinet symbolism itself is something that has carried through my whole life. So even in my place here, I don't get that many visitors. So this is my china cabinet too. I've learned that I like solitude. And I've learned that I'm a private person, and as outgoing as I am, I need a lot of space,
Yeah.
and I think a lot, and I just have to process all the time. So,
I would
yeah,
think if someone really needs that kind of space and solitude, then how does one be in a relationship and maintain that?
yeah,
It's a wonderment for me because I used to live alone. I
yeah,
lived alone in a big house, and I loved that I had space, but I loved that I could come and go as I pleased, and didn't have to
mhm,
take care of anybody but myself, and not in a selfish way, but I had been somebody's something for all my life, and so I spent a
yeah,
year and a half alone, and I found it to be really healing, and
yeah.
also helped
It
me
is.
make better choices in life because I
Right.
concentrated, like you said, you unzip yourself and you take the light and shine it inside and say, what is going on in here?
That's right. That's right. No, I think that if you are in a relationship, look, you have to take care of yourself. You know your needs. You know what you need. And if somebody loves you, they're gonna get that. Oh, that's Kat. Leave it. She needs her space. I know what she needs. They're able to read that and give you what you need. But it is tough to be in a relationship when
Oh,
when you're, especially if your husband or your wife are all if they're more of an extrovert than you, it becomes challenging.
well, and not only that, it's just surprising how few people know how to let another person just be. That's
Right.
that's one of the most challenging things I think of finding a mate for life is that someone that lets you be who you are and give you what you need, and you do the same for them.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you on it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I live a monastic life here.
yeah.
I really do. I really do. I mean, the lights go out, and I don't usually keep lights on. Everything's candlelight. I
What
get comfy back there on that couch. I watch my shows. I'm happier than a pig, and you know what?
I do because
You know,
you don't have drama.
no drama.
Yeah,
No.
no habla drama.
If I want drama, I can go to my sister's house. One sister has 7 kids. One sister has 5 kids. One sister has 4 kids. I could have all I want, and when I'm ready, I love you. I'm leaving.
Exactly. Oh no, I get it. So,
So,
what's interesting is that you left after a couple of years, you left and went back to what we'll call just call it for a normal life. What do you call it in
yeah,
that?
yeah. No, I came back to. They would say I left religious life and came back to the world.
The world, yeah. Now,
Right.
you could have stayed, but you came back to the world, and welcome back, Paul.
Thank you.
I
Thank
know
you,
it's been
Kat.
a long time, but
Listen,
if you hadn't come back to the world, then I wouldn't have met you. You,
that's right.
you
There's
know,
no doubt. Or told my story,
or
which
told
I
your
think
story. Yes.
I'm amazed at the emails I get globally. I'm dumbfounded by it. Like
Mhm.
one guy in Austria said, "I haven't thought about God in years, but your book made me think about God for the first time. He's not so bad." And I just said to myself, "Wow!" And the book is not like a Christian book. It's not.
Oh, it's
It
your
doesn't
story.
preach. It
Right.
does. It's not about the Catholic Church. It's more of somebody spiritual. My spiritual journey that
Yeah.
expressed itself through the arts, and I and
Yes.
I came out on the other end of my brother's addiction and everything on my own 2 feet.
Yeah.
The conclusion of the book is really very simple. What does it say in the Bible? I'm going to get religious for 1 second, so I don't want to turn anybody off. But the kingdom of God is within you. That's what Jesus said. And so for me, What does that mean? Well, happiness is an inside job.
Yeah.
And so doesn't have to be in front of a camera. That's not your bliss. It doesn't have to be with a living saint, Mother Teresa. She's the saint.
Yes.
Right where God puts you, right where you are. That is what he expects of each of us. Bloom where you are planted.
Oh,
Find happiness right where you are sitting. And that be a saint at this table, touching hearts wherever you're put. And it doesn't have to be overtly religious. Mother Teresa used to say happiness and peace begins with a smile.
yeah.
And it's the truth.
It is
You
the
know?
truth. Generally, if you walk around with a smile, which thank God I do, I have bad days.
You're unbelievable. You're unbelievable with that.
Oh,
You shine. You shine. You shine.
well, so do
You're
you.
wonderful.
I received that. Thank you. I have to say, when people ask me how I could be so happy, I remember somebody I was dating once said, only idiots are happy all the time. And I
Is that
said,
David?
no, no, it wasn't, believe it or not. It was somebody that was really nice, but that was their view. That was
Yeah.
their lens they looked at life through.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I guess I'm an idiot because most of the time I am happy. I wake up happy. I go to bed happy, unless
Yeah.
I'm
Who
like, I
cares?
just got over a 3-day migraine. And let me tell you, it was absolutely
No.
horrendous. And so was I happy on those 3 days? I tried, but pain is hard to do, but
Right.
I still was feeling myself. And when people ask me why I'm happy all the time, I always say it's the joy of God, because there's no reason sometimes. Through some of the most horrendous parts of my life, when I had to start over and over and over,
Right.
as we
Right.
all do,
Yes.
I still was happy, and I have no explanation for it. It's just how, I I think, and I don't mind talking about God, because like I don't mind it at all, because if you could just turn around one person's life, one, like this guy that wrote you with your book, and what I mean by that is for them to find their bliss, their joy, and that love that you get from God, it is unlike any other on this planet. Not a person can't give it to you. An
Yeah.
animal can't give it to you.
Right.
It is that peace that comes with it, and I wish that on every
Yes.
human being.
Absolutely. I write about it in the epilogue, and I talk about a saint named Maximilian Kolbe, who was so actualized in God. When he
Yeah,
was in the concentration camp, it didn't matter what the Nazis did to him. He
yeah,
was so present in God. And somebody was going to get shot out of 10 men, and the Nazis said, you're all going to die. And one guy started to cry, and he said, I have a wife and children. Please don't kill me. And Maximilian Kolbe was behind him, and he said, can I die in his place? And he stood in his place, and the
mm,
Nazis tortured him. But all they did was hear him pray, until finally they couldn't take it anymore, and they gave him a lethal injection.
yes.
And the man survived, and he was when the Pope made him a saint, Saint Maximilian Kolbe a saint. He was there. Yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, but that self-actualization of being so deeply rooted in something greater than yourself, whatever that is for you,
Yeah. Well,
that it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
no, it doesn't, and it isn't about religion. It is about relationship. It is about
Yes.
where
Yes.
you. So I really am all about like saying it, and if anyone wants to tune out, then that's okay. But somebody
Right.
might be really searching and hurting out there, and this is the healing of life.
Yeah.
But you were talking also about in the book about going to the Self-Actualization Center in Santa
I
Monica.
did. Yeah. Did you go to that?
Well,
Paramahansa Yogananda.
you, you are so going to relate to this, but I walked up to the place to go inside, to go in the gardens and the grounds. But my life was in Hollywood was up, down, I'm in, I'm out,
I
I was a
know.
Christian, a part-time Christian, doing unchristian things. And when I say that, some people get really freaked out by the word Christian. By that, I simply mean my in being
Faith
in touch
system.
with the Lord. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like my personal in touch,
Right.
not what somebody sitting in a building. It's not about that. It's for me, but I would, as you know, you would get exposed to people and darkness and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I never went in, but I went there a million times. But I thought if I went in there, I might blow up into a puff of smoke.
Oh, how crazy. Oh my God, no. It's beautiful. It celebrates belief systems. So
Yeah.
as you're walking through the garden paths, they got
Mm-hmm.
some of Gandhi's ashes in the Hindu section.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was a practicing Buddhist once. You know,
Yeah.
they have a Buddhist section. They've got Jesus over the lake. So it's all different, and it's a beautiful shrine. If anybody has never been there, it's in Santa Monica, California. It's called the Self-Realization Fellowship Shrine, and it is
That's
just a
right.
beautiful place. Beautiful, peaceful, little benches and like little wooded areas with I love it. And it smells of jasmine and oh man.
I hope it's still like that because I know Los Angeles is going through a lot of changes and really scary stuff right now with everything going on in the world. But
Yeah.
I just love this book so much.
Thank you.
And it's funny as oh gosh, I think is it Max that says what God
Max
packed your
Lucado.
yes, Max Lucado. He talks about what God packs our bags for.
Mm,
And I love that term. And also, I've heard it put like, was it Billy Graham? I really wish I could get this right because it's also about, when someone packs your parachute for you to make sure that everything opens and that you land safely on your feet.
right.
And,
Right.
and so whoever packs your parachute, there's a lot of trust that goes there. So,
Yeah.
I find that surrounding yourself with like people that you aspire to be like, if even if
Right.
it's a feeling, it's like what I mean is
Yes.
someone that's happy all the time or someone
Yeah.
or not all the time, but generally speaking, and they have a
Hmm.
certain peace and joy to them. And
Yes.
so you seek that because I do believe if you want to know where your life is going to be in 5 years, look at the people you surround yourself with.
Yep. Yep.
And
Kat, you know what Hollywood was like. We surrounded ourselves, ups and downs was nothing. I dabbled in what I wasn't supposed to dabble in. I
me
got my
too.
feet wet. I was no innocent baby. I mean, I talk about some of the stuff in the book. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm not innocent. People have said to me after reading it, how could you like try different drugs after your brother died? And it was like, I did. I was young. I was in Hollywood. I was stupid.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's DNA, and you got to be careful because there's a gene. And I liked how it felt. I mean, wouldn't call myself Charlie, and I stopped, but we did stupid things and
No,
things that I'm
absolutely.
ashamed of, right? So
Well, you know what? Just let me touch on that for a quick minute when you say you're ashamed of. I hope you don't still feel that way because I
I
think
don't.
we can let
No.
go of shame when we
Right.
when we acknowledge the things we've done and have regret over, but we don't have to
But it's
live.
your point. It's a
Yeah, with
parachute.
yeah,
Our parachute was set. We landed on you land on your feet and you're like, geez, wow, so-and-so died in a car accident, drunk driving. Well, that could have been me,
right.
and it's like, God, I'm so, you're grateful. You're great, gratitude,
There's
you
a
know.
saying I love so much. It's you'll never know the bad you missed, and that
Mm,
and I love that because it's kind of like guardian angels. You'll never know how you were saved from something because
right.
you'll never know the bad you missed because you weren't there to experience it. How
Yes.
many times we get saved in all of our lives and we
Yeah,
don't even know it.
that's right.
So
That's right.
I love a good miracle myself, Paul.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you do. You're so sweet.
Oh,
But yeah, no, I'm just really, really happy that I finally did this. This was a series of short stories, that I had written, after I left the Missionaries of Charity, when I left Mother Teresa's order. It was too strict for me there. That's why I left. And I started to write about Charlie. I started to write about the autumn. Yeah, as things came up in me, I would express them.
yeah,
And then I started to tie them together. When I met you, I was doing the tie job, but
yeah.
I wanted to go to Hay House's uh, uh, Las Vegas convention because they were talking to aspiring writers and how to publish a book. So
Are they still doing that? Even Louise Hay,
they do.
and
Yep.
so if people want to take this kind of seminar, which you did, and then you got real serious about writing this book, and
Finished it because of that. Yeah.
yeah. What is the name of the website that somebody could
Um,
go to see where those seminars? Oh, I bet
yep.
they're doing them online now. I bet
They might be. If you go to hayhouse.com, you want to look for the writers workshop, and you'll see it. It should be a header, and they do about 3 a year in a different city. So, and basically what they go through is the CEO is Reed Tracy, and he
Mhm.
stands up there. He was so honest, and he said, "Look, a lot of you think you have to have traditional publishers, because let me tell you something. A lot of traditional publishers don't even give you in advance now. You usually get $5,000, and then you write your book, and then when they make their money back, you'll make more money. They don't even do that anymore. You have
Well,
to do your own publicity. You have to do,
you do
unless
anyway.
you're
You do anyway.
right,
When
right.
if you're
That's
with a
it.
publisher, I've done it, and it's really, I love self-publishing because I also can write a book and get it out there, not wait a year. I've written,
And it's mine. 10 years from now, if I want 50 copies, I can have it printed.
yes,
I don't have to, I'm not at the mercy of the backlog or whatever the hell it's called. I
right.
would love an agent, and I'd love to get traditionally published one day. That would be great. But this worked for me. And actually, a publisher in Manhattan by the name of Marty Haller read the book, and she said to me, "Don't go to a traditional publisher." She says, I've been in this business for 40 years. She goes, "Not this. You're going to get a 26-year-old agent, literary agent, that's going to rip it apart and tell you what you need to focus on. Then
Hmm.
you're going to get to a publisher when you're done, and the publisher might not even want it." She said, "This is unique. Self-publish this one, and
Yeah.
then wait for the second. When you do your second book, that's a different story."
Well, I love this book, Paul.
Thank you,
I
Kat.
read it.
Thank you.
I'm a crazy reader, and I read it within one sitting. It took me several hours, and I really loved it because I got all of it. I got the God and Christian and heart aspect of it. I got that, you were a sensitive child, and I was too. And you know what's interesting? When I was little, maybe you were like this too. I I I was so sensitive that I couldn't deal with people that were um, like, if going to help the poor was something in my heart, but I'd be so scared, because I wouldn't be able to emotionally survive it. And,
Yeah.
as I grew up, I lost all that fear, and
Hmm.
I can deal with, I have dealt with everything, death
Right.
close up, people who
Yes.
have all kinds of very serious problems, health,
Hmm.
mental, everything. I don't take them on like I thought I would when I was little, because then you're of no use to anybody. If you
Right.
can't just listen, if you can't help people by being, helping, of course, feeding people and all that,
Yeah.
but just being the vessel for them to speak all that needs to come out and not
When
be
you, yeah,
affected by it. It took me a
right.
long time.
When
And
you have a heart as big as yours, when your heart overflows with that, it's love,
yeah,
and you don't know what to do with it. I'll
yeah,
never forget the Jerry Lewis, no, Steve Lawrence and Edie Gourmet.
yeah,
When we were little, they used to do some kind of a telethon. Not was it muscular dystrophy? At any rate,
I
it might have
remember
been
it.
the Jerry Lewis. They used to sing the song, "Look at us, we're walking, look at us, we're talking," and then roll in the kids in chairs and with their legs. I used to get so overwhelmed by it.
Yeah,
I had to hide behind the couch and cry. My father caught me one day. He goes, "Why are you crying?" I said, The children on the TV." But it's a gift.
yeah.
And when your heart wants is filled with that much love, you know, it's just a gift, and you find a way to share it.
And you were authentically you. And when you were being teased by your brothers because you weren't a tough boy from the Bronx, and you were a
I'm a
very,
tough ass now. Okay.
but you know what? You were a sensitive kid. You're a
Yeah.
sensitive man, and
Right.
you're just a beautiful human being. And I loved your book
Thank you.
so much. I cannot tell you enough. Those of you who are watching this conversation,
Thank you.
The Boy Behind the China Cabinet is an amazing story that you will so relate to on so many levels, but it's also got that Hollywood aspect to it, which I enjoyed and related to so much. And I'm so glad you're back in my life.
Thank you. I'm glad you're in mine.
Yeah.
I love you to death. You and Todd.
Thank
Yep.
you. Well,
Sweet.
so I hope everyone enjoyed getting to meet you. He's an amazing
Thank you,
person.
everybody, for listening and hanging in there. And I think the book is a interesting read. If you go to the reviews, people say they can't put the book down. So I don't know how that happened.
I
But
couldn't put the book down. That is the truth. I read it in about 6 hours, and
incredible.
yeah, I was sitting in my bed, and I have like a crick in my neck from, I just couldn't stop reading.
LaGreca.
I got a crick.
That's funny.
Thank you, Paul. God
I
bless
love you to
you. You are
death. Thank you.
awesome. Okay.
I'll talk to you soon. All
You
right.
bet. Bye-bye.
Bye, Kat.